Support for the show comes from Anthropic, the team behind Claude. There's a certain kind of person who delights in spending hours figuring something out. For them, this kind of work isn't a waste of time. It's an irresistible pursuit of the aha moment when everything clicks. And that's exactly the kind of thinking that Claude was designed to do, to skip over the easy answers and dig into the deep stuff. Try Claude for free at claude.ai/fashion neurosis and see why problem solvers choose Claude as their thinking partner. Hi, come in. Welcome to Fashion Neurosis, Riz Ahmed.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what you're wearing today and why you chose these particular clothes?
I'm wearing a leather bomber jacket. I'm wearing kind of a red, purpley roll neck, black trousers, and I'm wearing my favorite shoes. They're these shoes that are kind of made from Persian rugs. They're recycled. They cut up rugs and make shoes out of them. The reason I'm wearing these clothes, I think, is because I usually have lots of different kinds of things to do over the course of a day. So I'm usually kind of trying to thread a needle between looking smart enough to do some of them, but feeling comfortable and casual enough to do other stuff. And to be honest, I wasn't thinking too deeply about what to wear. But now that you're asking me, I feel like it's a pretty fair reflection of kind of my vibe these days. I feel like getting a bit older, I want to look a bit more, presentable and grown up with these kind of roll necks and slightly less hoodies. Although I'll probably still wear too many hoodies if you ask my wife. And I guess a jacket like this is just my comfort zone. I own a lot of leather bomber jackets. And I know I just was always obsessed with jackets as a teenager. So I've got more jackets than socks, and t-shirts to wear them with.
There's nothing like a good jacket because it's such a good edit, isn't it? It's like it puts you together, and then the slight disrobing feels safe, I find anyway. It's like, okay, I can take it off now and I won't feel so exposed.
Yeah, maybe there's something about it feeling like armor. I always used to look forward to winter because then you can pull out the jackets.
Yeah.
But also because that's when the Christmas sales were. And so we used to go to Bond Street and Selfridges and hit the Christmas sales, me and my friends or my brother. And we'd swap all the price tags.
That's a brilliant idea.
And they weirdly had this policy where, we'd take a £300 top and like swap it with a £50 tag, and the sales, they were all handwritten, and go, look, this is 50 quid. Which even then that was like, trying to get the money together for that 50 quid t-shirt or whatever. And they had this weird policy where they were like, oh, well, that is a mistake, but the tag's on it like that. So all right, you can have a 50 quid. That's when we would pay for it.
Brilliant. God, that's...
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Christmas and winter is that time of like, I would get all my year's clothes from then. And because it's winter, it'll be jackets. And yeah, I used to look forward to that time always.
It's so much more fun designing a winter collection than a summer, because just all that, what's going to look good on top of this and then on top of that. And it's such a...
Yeah, I guess also like when you get to layer different bits of clothes, it's like you get to layer different parts of your personality. If I was just wearing this roll neck, that's saying something different, I feel, to having it with this bomber jacket.
Yeah.
Not that I analyzed it, but I'm thinking about it now.
No,
and I feel like in summer, it's more like you got to choose the one thing that you are. And I feel like when it's a bit more cold and a bit more wet, you're allowed to have those layers. It's allowed to be more of a Russian doll.
Yeah, it's a really good... I'll remember that. That's exactly how I feel about it. And You articulated it so well. And you're a multi-award-winning actor, a writer, and a rapper, and you care deeply about equality and fairness. And people can often find themselves frustrated by not having the language they need and becoming didactic and frustrated. And when did you first know that you had the gift of language at your disposal?
It's funny you should say that, because I often feel that I slip into being didactic, and I often feel that it's so hard to talk about not just equality or putting the world to rights, but it's hard to almost talk about anything that you're passionate about without seeming too earnest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And finding the language, finding the right way to communicate about something so it doesn't go to people's heads, it goes to their hearts, is something that I'm constantly searching for, particularly when I'm writing music, writing lyrics. And at least I hope I've kind of gone on a bit of a journey there, from writing ideas to writing feelings and sounds. But I remember just being sent out of the classroom a lot for arguing with teachers, and kind of getting a sense that actually I'm being thrown out because I've won that argument, you know,
Yeah.
or like, actually, I think I got them. So they had no last resort left other than to send me out of the classroom or something silly, you know. But I remember thinking, like, I'm kind of beating some grown-ups in arguments, you know. I probably was a showboating as well. I enjoyed doing that in front of the class, you know. I was very ADD, and found it frustrating just being sat at the desk. But I think it was something to do with getting in trouble at school also made me realize the troublesome parts of me were, there was something that I had, you know. So it's weird, I guess, in a way, like for that reason, probably my communication or ability to articulate myself has always been tied up in questioning authority. Now that I think about it, you know, discovering my ability to communicate was the same time, it was tied up with challenging authority figures. So it's probably why I'm still stuck on that same tip now.
No, it's so interesting that, because language is such a power. And I always remember this one time I had a stepfather who I hated, and I'd done something wrong. He caught me hitchhiking, and
Where were you hitchhiking to?
I lived in the country, so I'd come back got the train, and there was no bus, so I was hitching home, and suddenly he was there, and I just went on and on, verbally attacking him. I remember I said, "You're the essence of hypocrisy," and then he hit me, and I thought, great, I've got to him. I mean, that was the only time that happened, but I had that feeling of, if you choose your words carefully, they can be effective. I mean, obviously I was 12 then, so I was...
That's fighting talk from a 12-year-old Bella. Right.
But you've talked about what you call your obsessive perfectionism, and I wondered what was the first instance of that you can remember.
You know, I'm going to mention something that's just come into my mind. That it's probably not, it does maybe not sound directly related. But when I look back, I realize that it is. Like, you probably think that I would say, oh, you know, I would keep redrafting my homework until it was there, or keep redrafting my lyrics until it, you know, I was happy with them, or would keep my room very tidy. Elements of those things some of them are true. The thing I'm actually going to say is, I used to have a twitch as a kid. I used to have a very elaborate kind of series of tics that I would perform. It was almost like a pattern.
Yeah.
from like my fingers to my face to my stomach muscles and my toes.
Oh, wow.
It was like, sometimes you see kids or you see and you're like, wow, something's going on there. Like, are they, and maybe it was just my brain chemistry. Maybe it was an ADD thing. Maybe it was some elements of OCD as well. I can be a bit of a neat freak. I don't know, but in a way, I kept doing that same pattern in a kind of slightly obsessive way, not constantly, but throughout my day, because I had this almost feeling that I haven't done it right. Such a weird thing to say, isn't it? But it's like I would keep retracing this kind of physical pattern in my body again and again, kind of searching for this feeling of having nailed it.
Yeah.
Slightly bizarre, I know, but when I look back at that, I think there's a kind of weird obsessive perfectionism that underpin that. But of course, underneath all of that, probably an overwhelmed kid just dealing with complex feelings and brain chemistry and stuff. And, a lot of kids have tics and these patterns, and adults as well, for that reason. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to say that, but I guess that's the magic of being lying here on a couch, and it almost feels like therapy. I wasn't expecting to talk about that.
It's so interesting that, because it's like I'm interested in the physical side of resetting oneself more after like so much mental exploration.
Yeah.
And it's like a kind of reassuring of your neural system. And I notice it so much now. So what you're saying really resonates. I can see how, especially as a child, that it's like a kind of reassurance in a way. Is that what it felt like?
Yeah, it's coming back to a home base. But you're right, it's also resetting. It's like, how do I deal with these overwhelming feelings in my body?
Yeah.
And later on, the way I would deal with them was through performance.
Yeah.
Whether that was in the classroom, performing the troublemaker to get thrown out, or whether it was on stage to get a round of applause and feel that wave of kind of validation, feeling like a kind of reset or a safe place, or, writing lyrics and performing them. Particularly, I used to like drum and bass and jungle, and I used to promote club nights that were mainly jungle and drum and bass. And just because of how fast the tempo is, like 180 beats per minute, and it's allowed me to put all of that intense kind of, I was almost like vibrating with like energy that was just spilling over, and that became my outlet for it. So I feel like, in a way, performance is still a way for me to physically reset and soothe. Particularly if you think about acting, it's a kind of almost a spiritual reset. Not to be too pretentious about it, but you're kind of leaving, all right, I'm not going to be me, I'm going to be someone else. Of course, the way you get there is always to lean into yourself and the truth of your experience and find those overlaps between you and the character. But there's something resetting and physically soothing about performance for me for that reason. To this day, I think the moment where I am the most completely at peace and zen are directly after I come off stage. When I finish a gig and I come off stage performing my music, I feel so blissed out and calm and almost empty, so reset in a way. I could like happily sit on a chair and just stare at a wall for like half an hour. I just feel like the energy has moved through me completely. So there is something like a physical reset about it for me, I think.
Like you're in the eye of the storm and it's all, you're just grounded in the middle. Because you've also talked about code switching, including the clothes you wore. And I wondered what the first time you deliberately dressed to switch and what you wore.
That would happen a lot, at school, because I went to a private school that was about an hour away from where I grew up, and it was a very different kind of social setting and different places, you know, and from my own neighborhood. And there was this thing in particular, I'll give you an extreme example. We used to have these parties called daytimers. So South Asian, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi kids, often with traditional parents, they, and in particular for girls, weren't allowed out at night. Or there was like a conservative kind of expectations around, you know, dating and that kind of stuff. So as teenagers in the 90s, we would have our club nights in the daytime when you're supposed to be at school, so your parents wouldn't discover it.
Oh my
And they were
God.
called daytimers. And when they were daytimers, you know, I would literally have that change of clothes. So I had my school uniform. And the interesting thing about the uniform is the tie, the house that I belonged to, like, you know, like Gryffindor or whatever, Slytherin. The house that I belonged to was named Clive, after Clive of India, the guy who colonized India. So I'd be like representing Clive House in sports and debates, and no one gave it a second thought, you know. So I went from wearing this explicitly colonial kind of tie and suit to have the change of clothes in my bag and to go to the daytimers. And for me, that was green and white Reebok classics, usually, because there was a reference to like Pakistani heritage in the green and white, the way that a lot of the Sikh kids and boys wore orange and black, for example. There was like a whole kind of subculture and code to these things around identity. Off-key print Moschino, you know, or usually fake, or V2 Versace, usually fake, from Wembley Market or something that I'd got. And I used to kind of just really, it was a full-blown costume change. And with it, the way I spoke would change. Who I am would change. So in a way, it was kind of how I started acting. You know, before ever being in a school play, it was just the total change in persona.
Yeah.
From home to school to hanging out with mates. But I think a lot of people have a version of that.
Because did you try to stand out or blend in as your code?
It's a funny thing, you know, is that as much as I wanted to kind of be a part of a tribe, I also wanted to stand out within that tribe, you know? So part of me wanted acceptance, but and to fit in, but part of me also always resisted that. I kind of think now that's still true. You know, the insider outsider thing, for a lot of creative people, for a lot of artists, it's I think it's an important place to be, because I think you want to blend in enough to have access, to have a window into worlds and new experiences, but you want to have one foot outside it enough to be able to see it.
Yeah.
To be able to look at it, to draw from it, to write about it. And so I think that insider-outsider thing is something that I still cling to in a way. Like I've always been slightly allergic to like totally being in like any kind of scene, you know?
Yeah.
And yet I've always looked in slightly from the outside going, oh, I want a clear tribe.
Yeah.
I mean, that contradiction between wanting to be on the inside and the outside, I think that's always stayed with me.
Yeah, it's a good description. So I was thinking about back in the days of punk, which I caught the end of and I wanted to be part of, but being part of meant distinguishing yourself within that too. So you couldn't just dress like someone else, or you'd be looked down on with, you know, everyone was so judgmental and critical, but it was kind of, if you could bear it, it was quite good training.
It's what's so amazing about that movement, right? It's like the tribe is being as individual as possible.
Without being a twat somehow, which is obviously...
Fine line.
Yeah. Support for the show comes from Anthropic, the team behind Claude. We've all become so accustomed to getting instant answers to any question that crosses our minds. which is understandable. We've all had access to search engines for decades now, but often search engines will trade depth for expediency, and the answers you're given can be incomplete or compromised by advertisers. That's what sets Claude apart. Claude isn't interested in giving you quick and easy answers. When you ask it a question, it's prepared to get into the why with you, to dig deeper and follow you down rabbit holes. What's more is that Claude can also support you with the kind of admin tasks that are tedious to complete on your own, which is how I prefer to use Claude. It helps me with things like cleaning up a cluttered inbox, or summarising meeting notes, or synthesising a plan of action when I want to get started on a new project. In that way, Claude is more like an ally than a simple search engine. Try Claude for free at claude.ai/fashion neurosis and see why problem solvers choose Claude as their thinking partner. And do you remember the first piece of clothing that you longed for as a child and felt that somehow it would change things?
And that I ended up getting, or that I didn't get?
I mean, in an ideal world, you'd get it, but often one wouldn't. But
you know, a jacket, again, a leather jacket that meant everything to me was one that I had made in Pakistan. I didn't visit Pakistan a lot growing up, you know, went a handful of times, but I think when I was 18, I think it may have been even the time of The Matrix coming out. It's like 2000, something like that, 2001. Went to the leather market in Karachi, and I had a leather jacket made up from scratch, kind of a one piece almost with no join in it, collarless, kurta style collar, Sherwani style collar, 3/4 length leather trench coat.
Wow.
It's very Matrix, isn't it? And I just wore that. Oh my God, I wore the shit out of that jacket. It was kind of like, in a way, trying to bring it all together, just becoming an adult. And it was like, this is like a kurta, it's like a Sherwani, it's like the Matrix, it's like this leather jacket, it's a bit like cool and gangster, I thought. And I remember I would wear the thing I would always wear it with at my club nights that I started promoting around then was a white beret. I think it was a women's beret.
That's so cool.
And then a kurta, like a kurta top that I cut with scissors and dyed. And then jeans, back then it was all bootcut jeans, with Nike Airbursts. Wow. And that was just like my thing. I was like, this is me, this is my character. This is the thing I'm gonna be when I perform. This is like, it's this exact mix, you know? And I think that jacket was just kind of like my armor. It was like my superhero cape when I was performing. It was like, I loved that jacket. I don't know where the hell it is.
And where did the beret come from? Because
The beret came from a friend of mine. I think she wore it to one of my nights. And I was like, I love this beret. And like, I think jokingly when I was on the mic, I took it off her head and put it on. And then she was like, it looks good on you, you should keep it.
That's so
I kept it for way too long, man. White beret as well. Imagine the inside just battered, sweat and grunge from raving. And yeah.
It's incredible how much, how symbolic it is. Because anyone who wears a beret, they immediately look like, kind of cool, intellectual.
What it's not a beret. I guess you could call it a flat cap. It was more like a Kangol flat cap.
Right,
now I think about it. Yeah, but I don't know it was a mixed signal I was giving off for sure, man. Maybe that was the point. Maybe it was simple as that. Yeah.
I was watching this documentary about Francis Ford Coppola the other day, and he was so beautifully dressed. And on one of the days, his look, he had a kind of pale, like an ivory colored suit with a black beret on. I just thought, it was so elegant and stylish, and so, this sort of allusion to, Jean-Paul Sartre and beatniks and stuff. God, it was strong. It was really good.
You know, it's interesting. When I'm filming, I like to not have to think at all about what I'm wearing. I never like put on an outfit to go and shoot. In fact, for years, for probably way too long, sounds gross, I just wore the same exact tracksuit. Throughout the whole of shooting The Night Of, which was like 8 months, every single day I would get up and put on that tracksuit and go to hair and makeup in that, and then get into my costume. I kind of wanted to erase the idea of me putting on any other identity or any kind of, that I wasn't putting any creative energy into creating a Riz persona that day. That was just its total afterthought, and all my energy is going into the other thing. And it's still a bit like that. Yeah, I am the guy who turns up in the exact same thing for like 2 months, and people are like, I hope he washes that. I'll say that I do, but I don't.
Loads of men, though, have the same clothes, like tons of pairs of the same jean and the same shirt.
I don't. I wish I could, for hygiene reasons, I wish I could tell you they're all different versions of the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
That's sweet. And what was the first thing you wore to be consciously attractive to somebody?
That's funny. I must have been going on a date when I was like a teenager or something. And we didn't have, I basically shoplifted this jumper from Selfridges, this D&G roll neck, like a thick woolen, it was beautiful. And it said, importantly for me back then, Dolce and Gabbana along the bottom. So it was there. You knew that it was that, but it was kind of subtle. And I knew I had this, you know, I was going to meet this girl, and I nicked it basically. And I wore that. We went to the cinema, you know, so it was like, probably didn't see it, didn't appreciate that it was branded either. But I remember that. And I remember that actually feeling quite like armor, you know, it wasn't like a thin roll neck like this. It was quite, you know, it was kind of thick. And I wore that I loved that. Sorry, D&G.
Because you, when you collected your Oscar for your short film, The Long Goodbye, you wore the colour burgundy, and I wondered, and actually today your roll neck is sort of a burgundy colour, and I wondered whether you have any associations to that colour.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a genuine association or if it's something that I kind of picked just to have a favourite colour, but growing up, my big brother's favourite colour was blue. So I automatically thought mine has to be red. And I guess I just like cultivated that idea to the point where now I kind of feel like, that's a thing for me. But maybe as I'm getting a bit older and I'm mellowing out, a colour I really love wearing is pink.
Oh,
I really love pink. And I feel like when I wear red, it's expressing red energy, so I don't have to. I feel like I can sit back a bit more, maybe if I'm wearing red. Whereas if I'm wearing green or beige, I probably feel like I have to sit forwards a bit more with my energy, be a bit more forthright. I don't know, I'm just kind of riffing in real time, but there is an element of that, like the clothes are doing the work for you, you know? It's like if you're wearing a crazy outfit, you can like stand quietly in a corner of the room. It's that kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. Gosh. And yeah, because I was wondering, when I was a child, I lived in Morocco, and I really wanted my mum to wear a veil like all the other mums.
A veil is in a niqab or just a hijab? A full
in
niqab.
Morocco, the women used to wear a jalaba with a veil across their nose, so you could just see their eyes.
Wow, okay.
And
you wanted your mum to wear that?
I wanted my mum to wear that. And I wondered, how do you feel about the different dress codes for Muslim women?
What I love is that there's a range of choices for people to be able to make, you know? I mean, my wife has written about this.
Yeah.
And it's really, you know, for someone like me to just listen and understand the range of views and opinions. I think the most important thing is that, as we're discussing on this podcast, what we wear is so much of our choice, right? And I'm a big supporter of people dressing however they choose to, you know, how much of themselves they're covering up or not. I don't think that's anyone else's business, really, personally.
Yeah. No, I suppose from living there and experiencing that, I agree completely. You know, it's very different being told how you have to dress to choosing how you want to dress.
Yeah.
And you've talked about the random selection searches at airports when you were returning home from winning the Silver Bear for your role in the Michael Winterbottom film, The Road to Guantanamo, and you were detained and you were verbally aggressed and denied access to a phone. And I wondered, how do you deal with deliberate provocation?
You know, it's interesting. Deliberate provocation is literally, it's someone trying to bait you into a reaction, isn't it? And it's such a fine line, I think, between standing your ground and reacting. You know, reaction, I think, is in a way your agency's been taken from you.
Yeah.
You know, someone else has set the terms of the interaction. When we just react. And if someone's deliberately provoking you, then it's even more true, right? They got what they wanted. And my dad always has this philosophy. There's a Farsi saying, which is "Jawab jahila khamosht," which is the best response to ignorance is silence.
Wow.
And I'd like to get to that level of zen and mellowness. Put it in God's hands. I'm not coming down to that level. But sometimes I feel like that ends up being turned the other cheek in a way that is also unhelpful. So I know, how do you respond rather than react? To be honest, I don't know. It's still something I'm working out in day-to-day interactions even. You know, we all get rubbed up the wrong way or triggered by all kinds of things. And trying to honor that feeling without letting that feeling take over you.
Yeah.
I think it's a lifelong journey. I've got zero advice for people on that. I'm just trying to work that out
But
for myself.
I think even, you know, delineating, responding and reacting is half the battle, because suddenly you retain your agency by remembering that you can respond rather than react. And then that's already such I mean, that's something to come from rather than losing it, which is so demoralizing as well. And but it's a really good it's great. It's a great thing to remember that. And because you described what you called 3 necklaces of stereotyping and breaking out from that, and working with Chris Morris on 4 Lions has seemed to an unlikely route to mainstream. And but he heard your song Post 9/11 Blues, which is such a witty song. And what are the 3 necklaces?
I'm actually not sure exactly what they are. So what was this that I was saying?
I'm quoting
This
back
is something
at you.
from quite a long time ago.
You talked about
I can talk
the
more broadly
roles.
about stereotypes and stuff if that's...
Yeah, it was like...
I'll probably fail to remember what you're quoting at me, to be honest.
You described these things as 3 necklaces, as like the first one of being cast as something, a sort of stereotypical cliche of how people think that they can use you as an actor. Like,
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I hear
working
that.
as a...
Well, I'll respond maybe a kind of broader level, which is, I feel like no one reads as neutral. Very few people do, right? blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful, has its own baggage. Someone in this body looks like this, it has its own baggage. You, the way you look. Some baggage is a lot heavier and a lot more burdensome than other baggage. 100%. I'm not saying everyone's got a cross to bear and it's the same. Particularly in our culture, right? There's a kind of value placed on certain appearances over others, but no one reads as neutral. And I kind of feel like one of the most exciting and important roles of telling stories is to really play with those preconceptions that people come to a story with. You know, if you can flip someone's thinking, if you can flip their perspective or their perception from the start of them seeing your story to the end, I think that's what we're here to do. You know, break down those walls and have them see the world differently. Ideally see themselves in someone who's nothing like them, you know? And so that's something that I always enjoyed doing, whether it's something like Four Lions, where it's like these demonized and completely misguided and criminal young men, but also kind of being like dumb and silly and playful.
Yeah.
And you kind of like warming to them. That's interesting. It's just a flip of perception, flip of preconceptions. Similarly with like Hamlet, we've got now, it's like people have their preconceptions around Shakespeare. It looks a certain way, it feels a certain way. People might have their preconceptions about what a majority, you know, South Asian cast, what kind of film they might make. But to put those two together, say we're doing Hamlet, we're doing it with this cast, we're doing it in this setting, modern London, doing it as a thriller. You know, that's what I just really enjoy. I get a kick out of that. I get a kick out of acknowledging that people come into the room with certain preconceptions, then thinking, all right, great. We've got them already. You know? How can they not see this coming? How can we flip this in some way?
Yeah, because
that's what excites me.
The Hamlet, I've only seen the trailer because it's not out at this moment in time, and it's got so much tension. And I read that that the director said, I don't like Shakespeare, and he got rid of every scene that didn't feature Hamlet. And I remember when I was a teenager thinking, why am I so unable to do anything? I've got Hamlet syndrome, which is where you perpetually, I had this sort of image of him perpetually walking on the castellations of his castle, never going one way or the other, and sort of being consumed with indecision. And this Hamlet is so tense and seems so pacey, almost like a thriller. And how did you make it so that you're on the edge of your seat watching it?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of people feel like Shakespeare isn't for them. They feel like it belongs to someone else.
Yeah.
I always say Shakespeare isn't dead, he's been kidnapped, you know? There's by the establishment, by intellectuals, there's a very traditional way of doing it that understandably a lot of people feel on the outside of. I have felt like that most of my life.
Shakespeare generally.
Yeah, and so this film that we've made, I think, hopefully blows that open for people, you know, because ultimately these stories stick around, not because it's just a tradition, because it's on the GCSE syllabus, but because they're really powerful stories. They're drawn from deep, deep myths that don't just belong to Shakespeare. Actually, he didn't make up almost all of his plays. He didn't make up the story. They're drawn from ancient, deep myths that belong to all of us. So if the heart of these stories belong to us all, why should the most famous version of them, Shakespeare's, only belong to a small group of people? Why should it be this dusty museum piece? And actually a story like Hamlet, I feel is about right now. We need this story. We need this story because it's an ancient myth at its heart that deals with the situation we're going through right now. So we can draw on its wisdom. We can allow it to exorcise what we're feeling. And when I say Hamlet's about right now, I think at its essence, Hamlet is about someone grieving the illusion that the world is a fair place.
Yeah. God.
That's how we're feeling right now.
Yeah.
It's about someone being gaslit about that.
Mm.
It's about someone realizing that they're part of the problem as well.
Yeah.
That's how we all feel. We're waking up to the reality of how screwed up things are.
Mm.
All the pretense has been dropped. The mask has come off. It's all shameless and out in the open.
Yeah.
Now. And actually people are carrying on like it's fine, it's normal. And you look in the mirror and you look at your own actions, you're like, I'm just kind of going along with this. That's how Hamlet feels. That's how we all feel right now. So I'm a big believer in kind of almost doing a heist on these crown jewels at the heart of our culture, you know, and taking them and trying to democratize them and present them in a way where everyone can connect to it. Because it's beautiful, powerful, necessary stuff, you know.
It's often said that creative people are not the best at managing business. We may know what we want, but we don't always know how to get it done. This is where I use Claude. Not to have ideas for me, but to help me navigate the administrative tedium of bringing my ideas to life. My inbox is full of unread emails. This is my system for reminding myself of things left to do. Claude looks at my inbox and my calendar and tells me what needs my attention and what can safely be ignored. Before meetings, Claude reads long email threads so I don't have to pretend I can remember everything. Claude helps me keep track of what I said I'd do, what I've already done, and what everyone else has quietly forgotten. And when I'm working on a project, I can give Claude some context, and it helps me sort through my ideas and prioritize the order of things. To me, Claude feels less like a tool and more like an authoritative ally. I can spend more time thinking, listening and making decisions and less time managing chaos. Try it for yourself at claude.ai/fashion neurosis. Because you're a very successful rapper as well as all the other amazing things you do. And you said once how studying Shakespeare at drama school influenced your rap lyricism. And I wondered if you had any couplets that struck you as the perfect rap lyrics.
From Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You know, there's so, I won't say a particular couplet is perfect rap, but there's a pair of lines that I love and that always grounds me. At the end of the story of Hamlet, he's been spending this entire play going, what do I do? Do I do this or do I do that? Do I fight back against injustice, even if it might kill me? Or do I just go along with it and just suffer all of this? He's really confused and doesn't know what he should do. And by the end of the play, he gets to a place of surrender. He gets to a place of, I think, acceptance, which is the heart of every spiritual tradition. Islam means surrender. Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, Wu Wei, swimming with the current. All of the spiritual traditions talk about surrender, and Shakespeare boils it down to these two lines, which is, there's a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them how we will. There's a divinity, some higher power that shapes our ends, how things shall turn out in the end. Rough hew them how we will. To rough hew something is to take a piece of whatever and try and hew it, try and carve it, but our carving is always going to be rough. You know, the end, the point of it is going to be out of our hands. And it's something that when I get too in my head get too anxious, I'm worried about trying to control outcomes, trying to solve situations in my personal or professional life. There's something very humbling about that. That's just like, and it doesn't mean give up. It means you got to hew them. You got to do the sweaty work of carving these big chunky pieces of wood. But just know, like, it's not going to turn out how you want. It's kind of out of your hands. I think that's true for every element of life, you know. Do the work, have a purpose, but hold that humility of knowing you're not in control.
Yeah.
So those are two lines that I think are beautiful to live by.
Yeah, really is sort of remembering that the outcome isn't it doesn't control how you deliver. Is so freeing if you can remember that occasionally. Well, for myself, speaking for myself. But
how are you doing at remembering that?
Well, I remind myself a lot. So that really helps, you know.
Do you find that the stuff that you do that's for yourself rather than what you think people want from you is usually stuff that connects more?
I think when I really want something, that's when I kind of think, okay, you can put the work in. You can't insist on the outcome because you may have missed something, and then at least it helps me to do the preparation right, and then sometimes the outcome isn't how I'd imagined it, but it's good. And that I find really gives me confidence in my resolve rather than being too kind of attached to willpower and forcing it. And I suppose as a woman, you're always negotiating that because people don't expect you to demand and insist. They're immediately kind of less receptive to that. But at the Elle Style Awards, which we were both at last year, and you made this incredible speech dedicated to Gaza and also to your wife Fatima, and I wondered how being in love has changed you.
It's a thing of control in a way, isn't it? When it's just you, it's just your life. For better and for worse, less of a negotiation. But that's what connection's about, right?
Yeah.
Connection is about teaching you that you don't have control. Energy flows both ways. And I think that's been good for me in all kinds of ways. Everything from like, the basics of my wife's messy, I'm really tidy.
Yeah.
I think it's been good for me.
Yeah.
To let go of that. I think it's taught me surrender in a practical sense in how I conduct my life, but also emotionally, someone else has my heart, in their hands as well as the other way around. It's made me probably more sensitive, bit more vulnerable, and honestly just extremely grateful, that there's this person who's willing to go on this journey with me,
Because it seems from the little bits that I've read that you have a real partnership both in your romanticism together and also your creative paths, that there's such a sort of joyfulness around you as a couple, like you're these two sparkling people exchanging, heart and mind, and that is so effective. It really means a lot to see that in people, and it's very encouraging. And you've been photographed by some of the great fashion photographers, including Jürgen Teller. And I wonder which photographer you think makes you look sexiest.
I have no idea about that. I can't really look at photos of myself and never think like, oh, I look great. I don't feel that. I really struggle to look at photos of myself. I don't have the same issue with acting, watching films back or anything like that. Not that I make a habit of it, but if I watch it, you watch it once, I'm not kind of fixating and projecting because things are happening. It's in motion. The story is kind of carrying you along. Photos, I would say if I can find a photographer that can make me look sexy, that makes me feel that I'd be very happy. I guess there's one photo of me that I think did capture me in a moment that was very unguarded. And that photo ended up being put in the National Portrait Gallery.
Oh, great.
And that's by Sharif Hamza. And it's interesting, I don't think this necessarily works this way, but he kind of grew up not far away from me. I didn't know him before we met on the shoot. But he kind of got me.
Yeah, yeah.
He understood who I was, where I was coming from. He'd walked a similar tightrope in his life. And he took a photo of me. I think it was for the New York Times magazine. It's like 2019 or 2018, something like this. And I felt like he captured me in a way that was unguarded. It was not posing. It was a genuine feeling. And when I saw it, I don't know if I thought I looked good, but I recognized myself in it.
Yeah.
I thought like, yeah, that's honest. And and then it got picked up and put in that gallery, which was really nice to be able to, take
I
family
love
to look
that
at it.
gallery. I go there all the time, actually. And if you fancy someone and you don't like something they're wearing, does it kill your attraction?
I mean, my wife has strong opinions about what I'm wearing and vice versa. But that doesn't mean we really listen to each other. I guess does it kill your attraction? I think so, actually. Yeah, a little bit. It definitely reduces it. I kind of feel like what you wear isn't so much a reflection of who you are, but it's like what your energy is. And I think some outfits are inviting you with their energy, or at least saying something with their energy, and some outfits are like just blocking energy. So I feel like sometimes it's like attraction's about energy. If there's just an energy block there, I'm like, I don't know what that signal is saying, But now, to be honest, I'm in a strange situation. My wife wears a lot of my clothes.
Really?
Yeah, she just steals them. And I go, where is that jumper gone? Where are those things gone? She'll wear them a bit oversized.
That's very charming.
It's annoying. She looks better in most of it than I do, especially hats. She can wear any hat and look amazing in it. But my hats are always going missing, man.
You don't have a pet hate, like Nick Cave said he couldn't stand ankle boots, and Susie capitalizes on to get new, exciting
That's funny.
footwear.
A pet hate fashion-wise.
Or, that...
I think dungarees.
Oh, yes.
I can't really make sense of them, Sorry.
Okay.
Leave them for Mario and Luigi. That's a safe space for them.
And when you were preparing for the your Oscar-winning film, The Sound of Metal, your character was a recovering addict, and you said you went to Narcotics Anonymous and AA meetings, and I wondered if you learned things from the meetings that you still use as a resource, especially to do with handling extreme amounts of feeling.
Yes, 100%. I went there kind of for research, and I kept going for myself.
Wow.
Not because I've ever had a narcotic addiction, but because the spiritual wisdom at those groups is I think true and effective. The two things that stayed with me, one is let go, let God.
Oh yeah.
I have all these sayings, right? Instead of trying to carry everything, putting it in the hands of some higher power, whatever that means to you. And the other thing was halt. Stop. Don't make any rash decisions or respond when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Yeah.
And it's useful from a parenting point of view as well. So actually, what's going on?
Yeah, that was so interesting. And because
have you ever taken any wisdom from those spaces or
Yeah,
been familiar with
yeah.
them?
Any of those things that just, like you were saying earlier, stop you from reacting and help you to respond. Any kind of any source material for that stuff is I'm so interested in.
You seem to be doing a good job. You seem like very calm.
I'm good at seeming like
Oh,
that.
really? Okay. Right.
But because I have like this, feel like I have a burning fire of like within, I'm looking to be reasonable. But
do you wake up like that every day? Do you feel like you've got that thing in you every day?
I
And
used to
you kind
more,
of trying to work out what to do with it.
Yeah, I'd often wake up with a kind of awful gloom and like get myself up on a level. So, and then I would easily be despairing about how sad I was about how things are, in the world, and then find ways. With my best friend who taught PPE at Oxford, Carmen Abulsi, which is where you didn't study at St Edmunds, but you studied at PPE at Oxford, and we talk a lot. She lives in Mauritius, and we talk about the beauty alongside, which is some kind of poetry or art or any kind of creative energy or something to go alongside the other stuff that helps continue, helps you move through life rather than, kind of just dropping out in despair and
version of trying to smell the roses or look for the silver lining.
it's more like that feeling of of impotence, of that there's nothing I can do, yet there's always something to be done, even if it's not a direct route. It's a vicarious way of showing love to people, caring for somebody, and it's like a ripple,
Yeah.
and those things I find really important to remember. And because you talked about your teacher, your sign language teacher, and I was interested that it's American Sign Language and it has its own accents and everything. But he said this amazing thing, I thought. He said, hearing people are emotionally repressed, and the reason for that is because we hide behind words. I wondered, how does that translate for you?
Profoundly true, I think. When I was learning sign language, it became clear that you couldn't hide. The communication is embodied. It is in your body. You're communicating with your body in a way that is so connected. And you're listening, not with your ears, but energetically. You're taking in someone's entire presence. It's not just about what the words they're saying. And that's true for us hearing people as well, but there's a different level of sensitivity to posture, expression, accent, rhythm, when you're kind of listening or putting your attention on someone who's communicating with sign language. It's just almost like, even without sound, it's like a fuller thing, just energy-wise. I don't know. And so I feel like being forced to communicate with your body in that way just connects you to it.
Yeah.
Connects you to other people's bodies. It's, in a way, it's a more honest, pure, embodied signal. I found, like, I remember one of the first times I was really fluent enough in sign language to speak about my own life, and then talking about my character's life. I noticed I was crying before I could stop it, or I was quite confused by it. Because I think verbally I could have and would have just very easily run through like, oh, I think this happened and this happened, this, and something about putting it directly in your body and being so expressive and connected. It was really moving for me. And I think the deaf community taught me more about listening than
That's
anyone.
amazing. Do you think it's like removing this filter that is, you think and then you decide what's going to come out? Not having that is, you have to speak with so many different parts of yourself. I could only imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's that line in Hamlet, words, words, words.
Yeah. And
it's usually performed in a way where the word words loses its meaning, just becomes sounds, words, 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 words. It's like, what is that? We can say anything. And Hamlet spends so much of the play at that point kind of just playing with words. It's like no one is saying what they mean. No one is saying the actual thing, which for him is, this guy murdered my dad. You're all in on it and we're not talking about it. No one's saying the thing that's true or that they feel. So then what meaning do words have? And he's just doing kind of like verbal acrobatics with it and just throwing them around and saying, oh, it's because I'm crazy. I lost my mind, But I think so. I think there's something in that. I don't know. Even like as a fan of music, I used to really idolize rappers that were all about kind of the technical side of multi-syllable wordplay.
Yeah.
And now I'm much more drawn to the honesty of the feeling, and how connected it just feels to them and me emotionally.
Yeah, I love KRS-One. He's so full of wisdom and he's so witty and so light and so intense with it. I just love listening to his sermons. He's the best. And your new Amazon series, Bait, is set in Wembley and follows a struggling actor, and it's incredibly funny, but for the audience there's this very poignant identification with the character who's courageous and occasionally betrays his real values. And how important is humor as a vehicle to make people think more deeply about their own prejudice and discrimination?
I think the amazing thing about humor is that it makes people feel more deeply rather than think more deeply. That you bypass the brain, you can go straight to the body again, like what we were saying, I'm a big fan of comedy, stand-up comedy. I keep threatening to try it one day somewhere where no one can see. Don't worry, wouldn't do that to you guys. But
you're really good.
The idea of, I don't know, just it's almost like hiccups, isn't it? Or like a burp. When you make someone laugh, it's almost involuntary. They don't have time to, well, do I agree with this? How do I feel? Like, can I relate to this person? If it's funny, it's funny. It's physical. It's like horror in that sense as well. Something so visceral about it, something so pure about it. So I think in a way, it's like a really primal way of communicating and storytelling through humor. And some of my favorite films that aren't comedies, they're full of humor. I think it's a film like Goodfellas. It's really dark. It's really hilarious, usually right next to each other, or something's hilarious because of how dark it is. It's dark because of how funny they find that thing. So yeah, I'm a big fan. My first rap song was a comedy rap song. It was like a kind of a joke rap song almost. You'd probably call it like a meme rap song now. So I've always been a fan of how you can use it to just cut through,
Yeah, it's very, I suppose it's another removal of a filter, people forget about their sort of opinions and suddenly realize, oh God, I really care about this. And I had no idea. Did you see that series called Reservation Dogs?
I haven't, but I've heard it's amazing.
So good.
Yeah, I heard
and
it's
it
great.
is a dark comedy, but all the sort of politics of it is the backdrop, and you learn so much about that from following these lives and the ups and downs in the way that your character does in Bait, which is it's one of the best things I've seen for years. I love it. I can't.
You saw it?
Yeah, I've seen some.
Thank you for watching.
I managed to get sent some of the episodes, so
I'm glad.
I loved it. Absolutely, just can't wait.
Well, it's really fun to be able to share a different side as well.
It's so
something that I love doing, and that's comedy, but also so much of the show is about taking off the mask.
Yeah.
Both for the character, who feels he has to always keep up appearances, even though underneath it he's a mess. And for me as well, it's about taking off the mask and showing a more messy, vulnerable side of who I am and what interests me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to show it to people, but I always also feel a little bit vulnerable about it. But I guess you should, if you're sharing something personal.
Yeah, I think if you didn't, it wouldn't be good. And it's so good. It's just totally wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Riz Ahmed, for being on Fashion Neurosis.
Thank you for having me. This
lovely.
Is so comfortable.
Thanks again to Anthropic, the team behind Claude, for supporting this show. Claude is the AI for people who want a thinking partner, people who aren't satisfied with good enough, but instead want to understand the why of the thing more than just getting a simple answer. If that sounds like you can try Claude for free at claude.ai/fashionneurosis.